Hi, everyone. I'm Rachel Chamness at Soundwaves Heal. And today I'm here with Kara Goodwin. And she is a spiritual guide, author, and the host of the Soul Elevation podcast. And we're so happy to have you here. Thanks for coming.
I'm so excited to be here, Rachel. I was sharing with you before we got on that I am editing your episode because you're going to be on my podcast, but we didn't live stream it. And I've been listening to your podcast and I feel like I'm in the Rachel energy. And then we had these synchronicities that were coming in simultaneously. So it's like I'm in the Rachel stew and I'm loving it. So I'm so happy to be here with you.
I'm so happy to be here with you. And you know what's interesting is that I received this message from someone who follows me who said, "Hey, have you ever been on the Kara Goodwin show?" I mean, the Soul Elevation podcast with Kara Goodwin. And I was like, "No." And is this your show? And they were like, "No, but I just think you would love each other." And we totally do.
We do. Good call. Whoever that was. Thank you for putting us in touch with each other.
I
I
know.
love it.
Me too. So it's been really cool. And Kara has actually coming up, she has the Miracle Summit, which I'll be on.
Yes. So we're going to have several speakers. I think at the moment we're at 9, and I imagine there will be a little bit more, but maybe it'll be 9. I don't know. And I'm working on the materials for registration, but I'm so excited. I had a Miracle Summit last year, and I'm really excited that you're going to be part of it, Rachel, because you just have this, like you do hold this high vibration. Hear a
Oh,
lot about high vibration and the importance of it. And like you can really feel it as soon as you start listening to your podcast, you start tuning into your work. It's like, okay, she's like walking the walk, and that's what you need to be in the miracles vibe. So
oh, you're
I'm
so
I'm
sweet. Thank you.
really honored that you're going to join.
Oh, well, the first thing that I noticed when I was like, "Oh, let's check out this Kara Goodwin," I was like, "Ooh, we agree on a lot of things." Like your introduction to your podcast, or maybe it was your YouTube channel. I was like, "Those are things I say." And I was like, "Ooh, ooh, ooh." So, um, whoever that was that told me to contact you, I'm so glad.
Yes, likewise.
Well, today we are talking about the importance of connecting with spirit, and this is something you love to talk about. So I'll let you start. Like, what do you usually love to say about this topic?
Well, first of all, I feel that when in this reality that we're in, the way that it's structured right now, we don't get a lot of nurturing with that spiritual connection just as a byproduct of the life that we're living, at least here in Western culture. I imagine it is different in different cultures, but in America, and I've lived in Europe as well, there maybe is like a religious aspect to childhood or even part of adulthood, but it is still that it is what we make of it, right? And for me, it doesn't resonate as much. A lot of the things that I learned when I was going to church and things when I was little. I did, for one thing, I didn't really understand it because it took place so long ago. The names were unfamiliar. They were like complicated names and these stories that just kind of like didn't make a lot of sense to me as a child. Um, and what I've always been drawn to are the stories of the people who were like me, who had angel encounters or who had near death experiences, and they would come back and they would share in modern times, that was just more relatable. And so it does feel that one of the byproducts of being alive on this planet at this time is that connection is blocked for a lot of people. It's not recognized and nurtured as part of our ongoing life. It's one of those things that, like, if you want to learn about it, if you want to know about it, you you can't really look to the media to tell you. You're not going to like find it in a lot of the TV shows that we're watching. You're not going to learn about it in school unless you're going to a religious school, and then they'll reinforce the teachings from church. Um, it's not something that it's not we don't talk about it the way we talk about it with things like science, where it's just sort of the foundation and that's what we're looking to reaffirm how we understand the world. And that is a tricky way to live when we want to be connected to spirit, or we don't even know that we want that. We feel this depletion. We feel this like something's amiss, or we don't have a frame of reference for the bigger picture when we're in tricky times and intense times. And as a collective, we are in really intense times right now. And I know a lot of people who in their personal world, they're going through
A lot
a
right
lot
now. Yeah.
of intensity. And so when we don't have that foundation, we don't have that perspective, we might feel this malaise, we might feel a depression, we might feel just a sense of something being amiss, and we can't even pinpoint what it is because we don't have a frame of reference for what's missing,
And
right?
you know what's interesting too is that I find with religion, there's a lot of importance of your middleman, the
Yes.
priest or the minister, or, and in spirituality, it's more about how you can directly connect. And of course, there are plenty of religions that also talk about direct connection, but I don't think that it's as important. And I think that what you're saying, that's a big part of it. It's like to know that you can connect, that everyone can connect to source or to their guides or to angels or to whomever is out there helping us. And I really think that part of our learning in this life is to learn that we're
Yeah.
not alone. There's like all this help. There's like all this, there's so much more than what we can see.
Right. And going back to the conversation that we had that I know is not live yet, but in your experience, you even were trying to find out like, okay, who's on the other side helping me? Like I want to deepen this connection. I want to know who it is. And you were being told by people who can do that. And they're like, oh, I can't tell you actually, which is a really fascinating phenomenon. But and so that's been part of your journey is that direct, like, okay, I've got these helpers. Who are they? Where are they from? How can they help me? How can I interact with them? How can I strengthen that? But that was such an individual process for you. And even when you found avenues, it was like, wait, okay, they can do that for other people, but for some reason, like that's not the avenue for me right now, And so it is this very independent and unique path that we all have. And I love what you mentioned in terms of the middleman piece, because there can be so much dogma with a lot of religion. So I'm not going to paint like a big brush. Some people get what they need out of religion. Um, but that middleman piece is a really important point that we want to think about, because I believe that part of the process of a genuine spiritual connection is becoming our own authority, and it is developing and cultivating that ability within us to be guided inwardly from our team and from our own higher self. And when we're always outsourcing that to a priest, a rabbi, a minister, or whoever it might be who says that they're the authority, one, we can really be manipulated in that way. It's such a vulnerable position when somebody is guiding us from the spiritual sense. There is that vulnerability of relying on somebody, and there are so many unknowns. It really is this sort of hidden aspect. So it's not unheard of for people to be taken advantage of and hand their power over, hand themselves over, be taken advantage of. There are just all those pieces to it to be on alert for and to be mindful of, because we can really trust somebody who says that they are okay, well, I'm your pathway to God. So that's kind of a heavy imposition. You don't want to make somebody like that upset, right? And you trust them. You do what you believe that they have your best interest at heart. So it can get very murky. and and if somebody is listening to this and they do that, they do have what they need from religion, then that's great. But it's just, I do think that part of the process and the opportunity that we have is to ultimately become our own authority, and not even just with religion, because we can do this with the government. We can do this with our spouse. We can do this with our parents. We can do this with our best friend, where it's like, I mean, I'm going through this right now with a procedure that somebody, it's like a common procedure that is recommended in our culture, the removal of wisdom teeth. And I am like, okay, I've been to, like, they've given me the advice. I've seen the presentation. I understand why they were telling me that they want to do this. And I just need to pause because I'm not sure. And so, for me, it's like there was something scheduled and I've just canceled it where I'm like, I just need to feel into this. I need to make this decision. I know what the conventional wisdom is in my society. I know again, watch the presentation. I was sold during the presentation, but as I'm stepping back, I'm like, okay, let me just try to tap into, is this the right thing in our situation? And, um, because it can be very easy to be like, well, the doctor knows, the
Yeah. I
surgeon
mean, that is
knows.
a routine, but probably unnecessary surgery that almost everyone has. I've
Right.
had
Yeah, I've had it too.
it.
And so and where I am right now, it's not a no, but it's just not I'm reclaiming my yes. Where I'm
Yeah.
like,
Well, I
let
mean,
me
that's what
just
we should
pause.
do. And I mean, with
Yeah.
everything, I think
Mhm.
if you're not questioning, then you're not learning. And we should always be questioning. The teacher should always have more teachers. We should always
Yeah.
be saying, is this right? Sometimes people say, well, I don't know. Sometimes I still don't trust the messages coming in. I mean, what if I'm just making it up? What if it's all wrong? And you know what? I do that too. If we didn't ask that, then we wouldn't be authentic. We have to ask. I mean, it's like the person who's crazy doesn't sit around and say, am I crazy? Right? But if you're
Right.
going, am I crazy? Then you're
Yeah.
questioning and you're searching and you're trying to be authentic and right or real. So I think it's really important.
Yeah, thank you. And it is so funny. And Catherine, I see that that's exactly her daughter's
Oh yeah.
situation right now. And it's good to know that other people are going through similar things. But and you're so right. It is this, like, there have been a lot of times where I think like, okay, am I crazy? Am I going crazy? And I do, but I'm comforted by that because I do think like you, like, okay, I think that that's a good sign. If
It
I'm
is.
still like questioning myself, like, okay, is this too
Mhm.
far? Is this like, but we're all just trying to navigate. And that is one of the things when we're wanting to, I have lived a lot of my life just kind of outsourcing decisions and looking to authority and letting the mainstream dictate what I am doing, and I'm coming out of that, but it's uncomfortable. And so, yeah, the last one with I feel like I came out of the womb questioning. Good.
Right?
Good.
It's good.
Yes.
Me too. I asked so many questions as a kid, and my kid asks me so many questions that I have to remind myself that it's a good thing.
Yes.
My brain is like exploding.
You're right. Yeah,
But
we're all
we
doing
have
our
to
best.
question, and that's part of discernment. How are you going to be, as a trance channel myself and as a person who teaches other people how to trance channel, how do you find discernment? How do you know who you're channeling? How do you know that this is of the light? Well, there are ways to know that, and it's part of what I teach, but the questioning is the big thing. When you have too big of an ego to be questioning, that's when you'll get in trouble. And that's where you see when people get stuck in their ego, where they are suddenly not clear, that they have
Yeah.
some interference.
Right, right. Yeah. And it is so important, the discernment, and to keep coming back into, how does this feel? And I'm sure that part of your training is learning, what does a yes feel like? What does a no feel like? And then as we get more aligned, I mean, this is one of the beautiful opportunities that we have as we continue to connect with spirit and we deepen that connection, we deepen that trust with ourselves, is that it's like the outer starts to align. And so we've got all these inner cues. There might be kinesthetic ways that the body communicates to us, or some people, I feel like they're so much luckier than me in certain ways, where it's like, oh, they just hear a yes, or they hear a no, or they see a red for stop or a green for go. And I'm like, oh, bless those people. That's just uh, someday maybe. But for me, I have to, my clues, they're more kinesthetic, and I've got to kind of, they're subtler than that. And sometimes it's just a knowing that comes in where I just, something feels right, something feels wrong. Like where I am right now with this wisdom teeth thing is just like I just don't feel a yes. And so I'm like, okay, it's coming, it's coming. I've got to like, let me just slow this train so that I can like have some more time to feel what is right. But
Right. And maybe it's all about timing too. Maybe there's nothing wrong with it, but you're being led to have a different timing.
that could be,
Hmm.
yeah, yeah.
You never
But
know
there's,
with spirit, but it's usually something like that. There's always a
yeah.
reason for everything, I feel.
Right. Yeah. And that with the external starting to align, like with that alignment, the way that I perceive it is, that we have like this column of light, and that's running through the center of our being, and everything is flowing out from that, including our projection of the external. And as we get into that alignment more and more, that external projection starts to align, and this is where we start to get those synchronicities, right? And I was just talking with somebody this morning about that is a way of communication. That is a way that the universe, that God, that spirit is communicating to us. So it's I've got I think it was a fun story from the weekend about that, just showing how things just started showing up without me even trying to feel into, is this the right thing or whatever. I went to New Mexico. My husband was on a work trip, and we neither of us had ever been out there, but it had been on the list, and he's like, come and join me for the weekend. So I went for a super short trip, and when I was preparing to leave, I thought, I don't have a book on the go that I want to take with me. So I was like, oh, it's too bad. I'm sure it's the same for you. People will just like recommend a book you should read or whatever, and nothing had come into my field. And I'm like, well, I'll just have to, maybe somebody will say something and I'll get that book. That'll be the signal. And nobody came up to me and suggested a book. So I actually thought about it again, and I went on Amazon, and I had watched this Greg Braden short interview a few days before, and I know who he is, and I come across his stuff sometimes, but I've never dived into it. And I was like, oh, I like him. I want to. Maybe see what books he has, and he had a million books out there. So I pick
I
one.
haven't heard of him. I've got to
And
go look him up now.
oh, you don't know Greg Braden?
Uh-uh.
He's like does a lot with the brain. He's like a Joe Dispenza type,
Okay.
that,
Yeah.
and he's massive. He's been around for ages, and but he has a lot of books. So I pick one book that I was drawn to, and I'm reading it. I think it was
Randomly.
randomly, right? And I'm reading it on the plane, and he, in the foreword or the preface or whatever it was, he's got his little introduction, and at the end he signs it, Greg Braden, Santa Fe, New Mexico, with whatever date it was. And that's where I was going. And I'm like, oh, well, that's funny. I never knew he was, because I don't really know much about him. And so I was like, funny that he mentioned that. So that was just an interesting, like, okay, well, I'm on my way to Santa Fe of all places. And then on the first morning, my husband and I go to this canyon, and there are petroglyphs there, and there's a civilization that had lived there for hundreds of years, if not longer, and they had disappeared. And so that we were listening to this archaeologist kind of tell us the history and how they lived, and speculate about why they might have disappeared and all of these things. Of course, none of it was like the interesting things that I would want to
Yeah.
think happened.
Aliens.
Right. Yeah. They just went into another dimension. They went to the fifth
Fairy
dimension,
portal.
and right. So we go back, and I'm sitting by the pool, and I crack this book open again, just pick up where I left off. And and in the book, he's talking about how he was hiking in northern New Mexico in this valley where where the civilization lived, and there were petroglyphs, and there were clear signs of an advanced civilization there, and then they just disappeared. And he's basically just talking about where I had just been. And
That's
I've never
crazy.
been there in all the years of my life, never been there. I didn't planned to go. It wasn't, anyway. And I didn't buy this book because it had anything to do with New Mexico. Like I didn't know anything about this book. So there were a few things like that. Like I also interviewed a woman named Cheryl Page, who like right before I left. It was like the last thing I did before I went to the airport. And she tells this anecdote about when she lived in Santa Fe and she was looking for arrowheads. And I'm like, you from where? What? Huh? I'm like just about to go there in like 2 hours. So all of these things that, these weren't like I'm solving the mysteries of the world, but to me, it was communication of like, okay, you are where you're supposed to be. This is a divinely guided experience. We're with you. And just the outer, like all these different ways that I'm interacting with the outer world, but they're reflecting my life, as it's happening, as it's unfolding. So to me, I see that also as spirit communication. And I
Me
see
too.
that as like an indicator of that connection.
Me too. And like angel numbers, I
Mhm.
cannot keep them apart in my head, even though I have a meme that I made that I put out there with like angel numbers, but I can never remember what they are. But if I see 111 or 444, I know it's angels are helping you, then I just feel like it's just synchronicity. It's like those things. So when those things happen, I'm like, okay, I'm on the right path. Like you can't
Mhm.
make this stuff up, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
it's such a good sign. And now I really want to read that book. Do you remember what it's called?
I think it was called The Divine Matrix.
Okay, I'm going to put it in the comments in the
Yeah.
podcast.
Yes. Yeah, it's been really good. I mean, it's very, yeah, it's not about New Mexico. Those were just little things he put in there to drive the point home of what he was wanting to talk about.
But
So,
if you got that many synchronicities, then now I'm just interested.
yeah, right.
That's just wild. Yeah.
Yeah,
And Glow says synchronicities are messages. They are. There's so many ways we receive messages from spirit, many, many ways. I love to
right.
talk about that.
Yeah, yeah.
And what you were referencing earlier, if people don't know that, I spent a long time in my life trying to figure out who my spirit guides were, and every medium that I went to would not tell me. And I went through all of this, and my spirit guides were just pushing me because they knew I was never going to take that trans-channel mediumship class, except that, it was about spirit guides. And I was at that time, I was like desperate by then. I was in my 40s. I just wanted to know,
You're
like,
like, I
who are
gotta
my spirit
scratch
guides?
this itch. Yes.
So kind of an extreme example of how spirit pushed me, but that's what Kara was talking about. And you can hear the whole story on her podcast when I'm on it, the soul elevation, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So yeah, it's funny, but I think too that the whole connecting with spirit guides, angels, or source, or whatever you want to call the universe, all of that is so important because that is like your navigation in this life. And for me, once I met my spirit guides, they told me how to do everything. I mean, a lot of the things that I do, I couldn't learn. I didn't know that they even existed. I didn't know I could attune people to fairies or to the divine director like I did yesterday. I made a video for my membership group, but I didn't know I could do that. They taught me how to do that. They taught me how to do all these spiritual healing techniques, psychic healing, and they taught me all this stuff. And everything that you get from spirit, there's always a reason. Why would they teach me all of these things? It wasn't just so like I could be the greatest healer on earth or something like that. It was because they knew I was going to share it and like teach
Yeah.
everyone else. So, when you get to know whoever it is that's helping you, they will really help you so much. It's like they're like the flashlight on your path, you know?
Yeah, I love that. And, for me, I know that I do have helpers and like how you were before you took your trans channeling class, like I don't necessarily know them as individual beings. I've had a lot of different readings that have, even on the fly, like not always like that I've sought them out, but you know how it is. Like if you're a podcast host, people come on and they just kind of offer things that are they're noticing. And a lot of times those things are like, oh my God, that makes so much sense. And that's really connected to all these things that these people wouldn't have any idea about. Um, so I do feel these connections and these beings, but I don't I'm kind of where you were when you were like not getting they weren't as defined. But
Actually, that's kind of more where I am now. Like,
oh, okay.
after you get to know them individually, it just kind of becomes one big. That's why I just call it spirit. Spirit to me,
Yeah.
spirit's like God, the universe, source, my spirit guides. I know they're of the light because I recognize the feeling I'm receiving. Like
Mhm.
it's a familiar path or vibration. So it's not like confused with this could be anyone. I immediately feel if it's someone I'm not normally conversing with, but I don't really take the time to be like, is this my joy guide Fred? Is this
Mm.
Archangel Ariel? Is this Alpar?
Is it my polar bear?
Yeah, totally. I just receive it. And you
Yeah.
know what? I get weird messages sometimes. I'll be thinking about something like, well, here's a weird story. I developed this problem in my foot. It's called Morton's neuroma. Okay. And I'm like this super crunchy natural person. I have been wearing barefoot shoes, like I haven't worn heels or wedges, as cute as they are. I miss them for years, and I bought these new shoes in April and they're supposed to be like great barefoot shoes. So, of course, being the super casual and overdoer, I wore them every single day. And in the middle of the night, 2 nights ago, I woke up and said, it's the shoes. And the next day, I had an appointment with a woman who helps me with yoga. And I said, she was the one who told me you should try out these shoes. And I tried out their other shoes in the winter and they came out with this new shoe. So I tried it and I was like, I think it's these shoes. And she's like, they are the shoes. They're not barefoot shoes. They're not correct. There's something wrong with those shoes. You should write them a letter. And I was like, oh. That was
Oh my
the next
gosh.
day after I woke up in the middle of the night. And I had been like going over it, like, what's happening? And I'd happened to look like 2 days before that middle of the night revelation. I looked it up and it was like, this is usually caused by heels. And I was like, that is so weird. So I guess that was kind of running in the background. Huh. I don't wear heels. So then I stopped wearing them. It's been 2 days and I'm telling you, it's like gone. It was the shoes.
Really?
So crazy. I wrote them a kind of slightly scathing letter today, but nicely rewritten by ChatGPT. Please improve my tone.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I love that. Yeah, that's
That's kind of
fascinating.
Yeah, it's kind of nuts. Like it's the middle of the night revelations. Whenever I wake up in the middle of the night and I'm like, it's the shoes or whatever, and then go back to sleep. Then and the next day I'm like, oh yeah, that's a
Yes.
message.
Yes, for sure. Well, and that it sounds like that wasn't one particular guide, but it was just the intuitive hit kind of coming in as you
Yeah.
experience
Well,
that.
it's so easy to get hits for other people. For yourself, you have to, you know, release the ego, release your thoughts
Right.
about what you think it is,
Yeah.
go deep, like, clear your chakras, connect to Gaia, like,
Yeah.
oh, and then hit me. I need to know. For someone else, it's like, oh, girl, I could tell you exactly what you need to do. Blah, 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 blah. So I guess in the middle of the night, I'm so in that space.
Right, so it's that liminal space. That's how, because I'll have some visions, I was kinda saying I'm not like a hugely visual person, but that time in that liminal space in the hypnagogic state where you're drifting into sleep, but you're not asleep yet and you're still aware of everything, that is my sweet spot where
Yeah, I love it.
it's easier for me to see things and get those messages and sometimes even hear things. And so, yeah, those are special times when those insights come, like you're saying, and you're not necessarily even trying to figure it out in that
Yeah,
moment.
it's like when you're not trying. That's kind of a law of attraction thing too, where you
Mhm.
think, you know what I'd like? I'd like blah blah blah. And then you're like, pff, you forget about it. It's not like I like $1,000 right now. It's
Yeah.
like or a
Yeah, yeah.
million dollars right now. It's
Right.
like then you forget about it, and the next thing you know, you've got it because you had nothing, writing on it. You were just like,
Yeah.
I wish I could have such and such. And then boom, there it is.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
It's like if you're not if you're not, it's you work against yourself sometimes with the longing or putting things in the future.
Right. Yeah. Well, and that I think kind of goes back to that connecting just with spirit, with source. And that's how I've been working more and more lately. Again, I was just sharing this like earlier today, but there was definitely time in my life where I was exploring a lot more like where am I from? And I love that stuff and I love to pick up on, like what might I have been doing in a past life or a parallel life or an off-planet life or, and who are my angels that I'm connected to and all of those things. Um, Now, lately, it's felt more of that pure source, just that like almost noticing or picturing like a column of light, like a massive column of light above, and just saying, okay, just fill me as much as I can handle. Like just come in, anchor. And I like see myself as this like electrical circuit almost where it's just like, okay, come in and get in here however much I can hold and just like use me. Let me be full of this and then let me just radiate it and share it and drop it off as I take walks and whatever, just what do you need? Come in, like come in source, And so that's been more of the behind the scenes practice lately in terms of that connection, like how so it's I think there's like an evolution that I've experienced anyway, and it's not necessarily that I've evolved out of something old and into the right thing or you know what I mean? Like we
Yeah.
can have these like black and white things where it's like, "Oh, I don't do it so much this way anymore, so that's bad or that's wrong or that's old or whatever." It's just like, I mean, I very well could see myself again getting, like something triggering like that curiosity and that becoming more important for that time. I think it is just like something to do with where I am in my evolution, where the planet is, where we are in a humanity's evolution and we do these cycles and these spirals and there's just so much going on like outside of my conscious awareness
Yeah.
that I'm like, I know it will come back in where I'm again like really focused on, okay, who are you guys? And where are we
Yeah,
going? Where have we been? You know?
we're always like, I feel like too, our path changes too. You always think,
Yeah.
I feel like everyone could always use a little more information on their path because it changes a lot. And so they're
Yeah.
guiding you in this other direction because they want you to learn something over here and then you're going to learn something over here. And uh, I also have that same visual that you talk about with the stream of light. And it's something I do in the mornings. I connect up to my higher self and then connect down into like a fifth dimensional or sixth dimensional grid of Gaia. And I see that just stream of light. And sometimes I see other beings that way too, especially Palladians. I often see them
Mm.
as like this sort of white pillar light. And then there's other beings who are like that, like Catherine. Thank you for saying this, Catherine. She says, I didn't know all this signs and connections were out there to this depth until I found Rachel. But thank you, Catherine. But she has a guide that's like a ray of light, and right, Catherine? I think his name's Rayed, and he comes in like a ray of light, and a lot of people do.
Yeah.
I've seen that, and so it's kind of interesting. I think that's probably how our soul incarnates into any kind of body.
Yes, I love what you're bringing up, and I'd love to share too, like where I take this because it's so related to what you're talking about,
Okay.
how you can see like one when you talked about connecting into the grid, that's what triggered this thought. Um, and then the other beings that you see, because one thing that I've found particularly helpful, we kind of alluded to the times that we're in as we're recording this in September of 2025. It's there's just a lot going on. There's a lot of change. There's a lot of chaos in the collective. And then again, like we were saying before, a lot of individuals are experiencing that too. And so, one of the things that I love to do is, in addition to that column of light and bringing that column in and feeling that it's kind of anchoring into my electrical circuit. And when I say that, I mean like the nervous system but honestly, a lot of times when I see it, it looks more mechanical. Like it looks almost like, because it looks like a circuit, like, which I associate with electricity and so forth. Um,
That makes so much sense, though.
yeah, but and so it's like, okay, just come in and make these connections. And I don't get too technical with it because I don't know a ton about anatomy or about circuitry. I don't really have like an engineering mind, but it's just like how it, how these things go. But and so then it's like, okay, absorbing this light, receiving this light, but letting myself be in that receptive mode of just letting as much that can come in to come in. And then I kind of picture myself as this ball of light or this point of light, and that there are other points of light all over this planet. So whether it's connecting into the earth into a fifth, sixth dimensional grid, however you want to see it, I kind of see it more as like there's a void around the planet. And there are all these lights that are points of light that are other light workers. People are praying all over this planet for the advancement of humanity. People are praying for the highest good. They're praying for us to elevate the frequency of this planet, to lift the vibration. And so it's this like choice that I make to say, okay, arc my light, like here I am as a light, arc my light to join these other points of light who have the same intention and are vibrating at the same frequency. And then you can kind of see this like network building out, that we're joining into this network, to this grid, and like lighting it up. And of course, it's um, a visualization that anybody can practice. But all of this starts with our quote unquote imagination. And so, to me, that is a way to strengthen this high vibrational network that is a real thing. This Christ consciousness grid, or however we want to think about it, a fifth density, sixth density. Like, there's different ways to relate to it. But what really matters is the actual essence of what it is. And so that's something that I just like to share because it's easy, and it's like, you don't, and maybe I make it sound complicated. If you try it, like, it's not complicated. Um, and I think that it's really like a very helpful thing, for especially when it feels like things are so out of our hands, that it's like, what can I even do? Because I've gotten to the point where it's even with like, nonprofit, it's like there was a point for a long, long time where it's like, okay, well, let me just contribute to charities. Let me, like, at least I can do that. And now I'm like, I don't even trust these anymore.
I know.
Like,
It's sad, isn't it?
yeah, I'm like, I don't know that what this is funding. Like, it doesn't seem to be what I intend for it to be. So I think that if you can be boots on the ground, if there are ways that you are actually helping in the 3D, like with your body, with your time, with your energy, please keep doing that. I don't want to discount that and say, no, we're going to do all of it in the ether. But if you are feeling like confused about where to put your energy and your attention, and you feel like you're just not maybe doing anything to help, then that's a suggestion.
I love that. We do in my Facebook group, 5D Daily, we do a monthly Lightworkers like group healing. April Lindevald is who does the healing, and she'll pick a topic, and then, you know, we'll just do a healing all together and
Mm.
lend all of our healing together on replay, even, or at the same time when it's live. And I love doing things like that. It feels really good. When we come
Yeah.
together, our light's even stronger. And I really love that, what you're talking about, like a grid of light workers. I work with a lot of grids, and I'm trying to think. I don't think that I have worked with one of those grids. And so I can't wait to try it and then see what
Yay.
happens. I've seen
Yeah.
it for other people, though, where they connect with different kinds of the same types of healers. Like some people actually have a client who works on earth grids all over the world,
Mhm.
and I've seen her connected to a grid of a few other people who are doing the same. So that's really neat. I'm all about it.
I love it. Yeah, and doing that intentionally as a group, like I do that as well with a couple of different groups, and That I mean, it just exponentially, it's not like a
It
1 plus
is.
1 is 2, it like exponentially, like to the power of, is more accurate with what we can
It's
do when we come
amazing.
together.
Even
Yeah.
just two people can make a huge bump in what they're trying to do. This one time, my sister, who's just a bit spiritual, she and I did an EFT exercise together.
Mm.
Where you tapping on the emotional, it's called emotional freedom technique, and you tap on the meridians. And it was just something little that we just did not want to experience in our family dinner that we were about to have involving, someone else. And so we just like made an intention, and then we tapped, and it was incredible. She was blown away. It worked
Wow.
so well. And really, it was so casual. It was almost like, let us just get over ourselves that we aren't bothered by it when it happens. And it didn't happen. It was incredible.
Wow. That's so
It
powerful.
is. It's so powerful to do. EFT is really powerful to do with a lot of people, or two people. I used to do EFT. I did it a long time before I ever stepped into this whole, psychic realm. But it it's just one example of many things. Doing Reiki together, just two people having an intention together. Those things really do grow with when we put our lights together. So doing a light worker grid, connecting intentionally in the way that you're talking about is so powerful.
Yeah. Well, there's a famous quote in the Bible, wherever two or more are gathered,
That's
there
right.
I am.
Yeah,
And it's
truth.
really, yeah, it's really true, because when we come together and then when we especially bring in like, okay, God, get in here, let's do this on behalf of source or our ascended masters or whoever we feel drawn to, but
Yeah.
remembering that we have all this, I don't need to tell you, and but just to fill it out, like to remember that we have that all of that help on the other side too. And it's really powerful. We are such powerful human beings, are just incredibly powerful. And I think we're waking up to that more and more all the time. And that
I
goes
think we've
back to,
been programmed to suppress our power so much.
yeah.
And now, yes, it's exactly. We're waking up and saying, hey, this is everything here. Everything I'm seeing is coming from me. It is my projection. Am I in a matrix, or is this just how this world works? I mean, that's a big question too, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I think
It
sort of both. Yeah.
right, right. And yeah, I mean, it can be a matrix that is influenced by our perception.
Or it's just some sort of reality where we are all experiencing things that we have projected into our experience. And it is so interesting to have two people recall the same time, and it's completely different how they remember it because it's so colored by their own experience and their own filters, but also because we're just projecting so much onto every situation from our inside, from our thoughts, that it is a whole different thing. It's a completely different experience, the same exact moment.
Right. Yeah. And then you get timelines into that too, where it's
Oh,
like,
yeah.
okay, we're going into memory. How reliable are our memories? Not only just our ability to remember, but in terms of the timeline thing, like which are we moving across timelines, and are we kind of
Oh, we
jumping
are.
around? And
Mm-hmm.
so when we're remembering something, we really might be remembering, like we may have an
That's a
accurate
good point.
memory, from the timeline that we're in, but we're talking to somebody whose memory is from a different timeline.
Well,
It's
my child has told me, he's 14, and last year he told me all about this trip we had where we went to my brother's house. And my child's never been to his house. We don't live in the same city, but I have. And told me this whole thing and described it and everything, and it never happened. And I was like, wow, different
wow.
timeline. And I had just been doing a bunch of timeline work. So it was really like showing me.
Yes. Yeah, it's and I'm sure everybody has these sorts of things. Like that's really interesting that
Yeah.
and you can verify what he's saying. I know I had a funny one like a few years ago. It was on the winter solstice. and I was having lunch with my spiritual mentor, and we were talking about some really expansive things. He was sharing some cool story, like mystical stories that he'd been to. And I'd heard a lot of these stories before, but I just loved hearing them. And we were then connecting another, a couple of days later or something on the phone. And he said, "Well, it's like I was telling you at the cafe." And he started going into the story. I knew the story, and I was like, "You didn't tell me that yet a couple of days ago. You told me that like a few months ago." And he was like, "No, we talked about it at the cafe." And I'm like, "No, we didn't." And I was so locked in on that conversation. So it wasn't like I'm flipping through my phone while, yeah, 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 as he's talking. Like I was locked in, and and he's like, we did talk about this. So it was just really funny because we were like, "Oh, I think we jumped timelines," because we weren't trying to think back to a conversation that we'd had like all those years ago or all those months ago. It was like it was just very recent conversation. And I was like, I was there. Like I was fully there. I know what we talked about, but all these little things that we can think, it'd be easy to be like, "Oh, just okay, I remember it differently." But then the circumstances come about and it's either like, "I know for sure we did not take this trip," or
Right.
like, "I know for sure that didn't come up in our conversation,"
It
or
did not
whatever it might
happen.
be. And yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's
I know.
mysterious,
It
this
is
world.
mysterious. I'd love to hear in the comments if anyone else has had these sort of changes in their timeline where something is different. It's really interesting. When it comes to timeline work, you don't want to get too into it, because you don't want to drag back the old timeline, but it's interesting to see the little things and be like, okay, this is another sign.
Yeah, because it can go backwards too. So we might think, I mean, I think it's easy to think about, okay, we're changing timelines and that's going to affect our future, like the future possibilities. Maybe some possibilities fall away, but we can affect the past. And that's what is like really mind bendy. I mean, I think it's hard, it's mind bendy enough to think about the effects on the future, but to be like, wow, you go into the Mandela effect. I've had
Oh yeah.
Cynthia Sue Larson on the podcast a couple times. She's written books on
Oh, has
the
she?
reality
I
shifting
love
and
Mandela effect. It like is just wacky. That's such
yes.
timeline
Yeah.
discrepancy.
Yeah. I mean, there are things like the location of organs in the body, like the kidneys used to be higher,
Yes.
now they're lower.
Yes.
And the heart has shifted more toward the middle. And there was this big terrorist attack in like the 19 teens, like 1914 type of thing, which was this massive bomb that happened in New York City that like
What?
I know. I can't remember what it's called. I think there's the word black is in it. But anyway, like I'd never heard of it before. We talked about it on the podcast. Somebody put a podcast comment in there like my daughter has studied it has a master's in history or something, like really knows her history and she'd never heard of it. And I mean, you can
Yeah.
find it if you know what you're looking for, you can find it, but it's also like what? We know
That's
about
interesting.
Pearl Harbor. We know about the American Revolution. Like this is the type of thing that we would have been taught about in school. So just and then Mandela himself, that's a
Yeah,
whole
that's the
weird
biggest
thing,
one. Yeah. Of course, I
right?
always think of things like Fruit of the Loom or the Monopoly
Yes.
Man
Yeah.
um or the Queen song.
Oh, wait, what's the Queen song?
Oh, it's my favorite. So we are the champions. And at the end it goes, dun 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 of the world. Everyone remembers that it does that, but if
Yeah.
you listen to it, it just goes dun 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 and ends. And I told my husband that, and he was like, "I will prove it to you. I have an LP from the '70s. I'm gonna play it right now." And I was like, "Okay, let's listen." And we get to the end, dun dun dun, and it was over. And he was like, "What?"
No, I've never
Yes.
heard of that. And so my kids, when they were little, because I have teenagers, we had a playlist that we would listen to. This is back in like iPod days. So
Yeah,
we'd have in their iPod this playlist that we'd put together, and we just listened to it. Like we'd go for brunch on Sunday, and they'd want
we
to
had
hear
those
this.
too. Yeah.
Yes. And that was one of the songs that was on there. So I've listened to that song a lot because we just listened to this playlist over and over and over. And I've never heard that. And I do believe that's how it ends. Like
See, so
I'm
you should go back to that playlist because you probably have it somewhere and listen to that version. Now, I mean, I
Yeah.
have thought with this one, it could be maybe it's a radio edit or something, but I still haven't found it.
But
So
if
you
you've
have to
got
let me
the
know.
but you listen to the LP,
We listened to the original LP. It
so
was not
that's
like a recopy or anything. It was like yeah, it's one of the original.
huh, that's so bizarre.
It's
Well, it
really
was,
bizarre. Yeah.
and going into just reality shifts related to the Mandela effect, I was prepared. I think I was preparing for Cynthia Sue Larson's episode, or I was reading one of her books or something. I don't know. Anyway, it was in that sort of time frame where I was in her work, and I was going out to Sedona, and my Uber came and picked me up, and yeah, Mimi's like, now I have to go listen to it later. Yeah, I think we're all
Yes.
feeling that.
Yeah, we need to.
To-do list, go listen to We Are the Champions. Um, but the Uber driver comes, and I get in, and it's this guy who's from India, and it's early in the morning. It's like 4:30 in the morning. And so I say good morning to him, and we're just making a little bit of small talk as we're going. And then he's telling me a little bit more and a little bit more, and he starts talking about, his car, and it starts talking about his nephew and some car trouble they had in Chicago and all this stuff. Then he's like, kind of out of nowhere, he was like, I was in the Secret Service in India. And I was like, what? Like, and he goes, I was one of the prison guards who released Nelson Mandela from prison. And I'm like, what is happening right now? And at first, I didn't believe him. I just thought he was getting a little bit carried away with everything. But he, oh, that's awesome. Somebody's saying like they met Cynthia Sue Larson several times years ago. Yeah, she does live in Northern California. She's awesome. Um, but he like got on Facebook and showed me this old photo from when Nelson Mandela was released from prison, and he's like signing these documents, and this driver is standing there with him in this uniform. He's telling me about going on Air Force One with Bill Clinton. He's got all this like 90s knowledge about politics and the state of the world at that time, the 90s into the 2000s, and different stories that do add up. Like I'm kind of stretching back in my memory about like, wait, are these times and these names adding up? And I'm like, yeah, these are the right names and the right times. And then he's talking about like the deprogramming that had to happen for him to leave the country. All like and then by the time we reached the airport, he's like, I have no idea why I'm telling you this. I never talk about this. I don't know what has possessed me to tell you. And I'm like, well, I'm enjoying it, but at first I was like, I don't even think I believe him. And then, I start seeing the photo, and he starts telling me more and more. And it was just so bizarre. But then like Nelson Mandela, of all the people on this planet,
That's
all of the
crazy.
billions of people, he happened to be one of two. I think there were two guards who escorted him out of prison. And this is while I'm like deep into Cynthia Sue Larson's work about the Mandela effect, and how some people remember him dying in prison. And then all of a sudden he was the prime minister of South Africa, or the president of South Africa, when a lot of people thought like they remembered it being announced that he had died.
I remember
Um,
it.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
I
it's,
mean, like just a little bit, but I remember that being on TV. Yeah.
yeah. So
That he had died.
it's all just very, very bizarre. And then it's like bizarre when it starts showing up in your individual world. Like, and this has
Yeah.
been what, 30, 40 years since, I think about 30 years since the Mandela effect became a thing, where people
Yeah.
started to observe like, wait a minute, it's not just me who remembers that he died. Like other people are saying this, like, yes,
Yeah.
I watched the news,
Mm-hmm.
breaking news that came through, and all of this, and
And
journalists who reported on it and things like
yeah.
that.
Don't you think that synchronicities too are like speeding up? Like I feel like if I got two synchronicities in a day, it was big, but now I feel like I get them 2 an hour, or like everything is a synchronicity. It's like, oh my gosh. Like I feel like I'm like that
Yeah.
constantly lately. And I feel like other people are saying that too. And if that's true, then what a good time to be having it. Because like you said earlier, this has been a really hard time for most people, So
Yeah.
if the synchronicities are coming in, coming in, coming in, then, it's a good sign. Well, we should
Yeah.
remember that when we see those, it's your spirit guides like, "Hey, you're on the right track. This is good. This is good," you know?
Yeah. Oh, I got a big chill down my spine when you said that. Yeah, I think I agree. And it's hard to know, is it that they're coming faster or do we recognize them more?
That's true. Yeah.
You know, is it because I know that there have been large swaths of my life where I would have called those things coincidences. And I wouldn't have wanted to see a pattern or acknowledge a pattern where it's, oh, it's a coincidence, but
I
it's
think for
nothing
me
more
though
than
that
that.
they really are happening more cuz
Because
I'm
you
into
would
it.
have noticed it. Yeah. 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 You're like, I've been into it for a while. Yeah. But like you said, too, if we go back to that being a reflection of that alignment happening and that the outer world is configuring itself in a way that is in accordance with that divinity, it's this restructuring of our reality that is because I do see things like geometry is kind of my language. Sacred geometry is a big part of my frame of reference, I guess we could say. And sacred geometry is repeating patterns. If you think of a mandala, like mandala, but those
Mhm.
like they're these geometric repetitive
Here's
patterns,
one.
right?
Here's my
Look, the
favorite one.
Sri Yantra. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
It's on my
Of
pendulum.
course
It's my
you're showing
favorite.
me the Sri Yantra
That's my favorite
because
one.
well, I have just finished, I think it was about 40 days in a row I drew the Sri Yantra every day. And I was very, very drawn to
It's my
drawing
favorite one. I
the
love
Sri
it.
Yantra.
How interesting. That's a repeating
And
pattern, just lots of triangles, right?
yeah, yeah, lots of triangles. But if you look at it with a soft gaze, it will start to there will start to be depth. It can start, I don't know how easy it'll be with your necklace, but if
Mhm.
you look at like a printed version of it and you just let your eyes go soft, it will start to like parts of it will lift forward. And then for me, it starts look you can start seeing like corridors in
That's
it.
so cool. We
And
did a whole program on the Sri Yantra and some Fey beings a few
mm,
years ago in my mentorship group tag, and it was just wild. It was about
it's
its connection
powerful.
to music, the music of the universe. It was a really neat program.
Ooh. Oh, that's awesome. I love it. I found it really powerful. And then I just got to the point where I was like, okay, I think it's complete as far as like that practice of doing it every day. But it was starting like my dreams were starting to reflect it. And not that I was seeing it necessarily in my dreams sometimes, but I would be in these, like, long, narrow hallways, and I'd be in these rooms that were, like, long, skinny rooms, and then, like, I'd leave the room and then be in this long, skinny hallway with these, like, really sharp turns, and I wouldn't recognize it when I was dreaming, but as soon as I woke up, I'd be like, "Oh, I was in the Sri Yantra again."
That's so cool. Oh my gosh.
It
I have a
works so
feeling we'll all
closely
be
with our
dreaming about it
consciousness.
tonight.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh my gosh, this was so much fun. Thank you
I
for coming.
know, thank you for having me.
I want you to tell everyone about your book though and where to find you and everything else.
Yes, well, thank you so much. My book is Your Authentic Awakening, a guide to everyday spiritual living. So I go into some of the things we've talked about in terms of why we don't have this connection innately. Well, a lot of people don't. What we can, how that has transpired through our human experience, and then what we can do about that. And then I've got a lot of my own experience in there. I go into some of the mystical experiences that I've had and what I've learned from those. And it's just that, and every chapter has like it finishes with a do it section so that you can
Oh, neat.
apply what you've been reading about. And then my podcast is Soul Elevation Podcast, and you can get that at soulelevationpodcast.com or any of the I have a YouTube channel that's at Soul Elevation Podcast, and it's on all the platforms and everything. And then the karagoodwin.com, you can get a lot of free meditations, guided meditations, and the summit that's going to be on December 6th. You will soon be able to register for that. I'm just a one woman show, so I'm still putting the finishing touches on the site, and I've got new speakers that keep getting added too. So I'm like, I was pretty much there. I could have published it, but there were a couple people that I was like, I think they're coming in, so let me just wait before I publish it. But soon, and that will be free to join, or you can purchase the replay, purchase the VIP upgrade, because all of the speakers will be giving VIP gifts to help you go deeper. And I recommend, if you are able to do that, to definitely do that, because it's enormous value for a really low price. And
And
that's about it.
when this airs on the podcast, we'll have all those links. It should be already. So I'll put
Right. Yeah.
my own link in the comments
Yes.
too, in the description.
Yes. Yeah. Use Rachel's link.
But I'm so excited to be there. I think it's going to be really neat. And I just love
Yeah.
everything that you do.
Oh,
It's really beautiful.
likewise.
And you have such a great path.
Thank you. Well, likewise, I'm so happy that we got connected again.
Me
Thank you to
too.
whoever that little angel was who connected us. I'm really grateful. And I'm grateful for everything that you're doing to help people to connect deeper with themselves and to just stay authentic to your mission. And it's been such a joy and an honor to join you. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you for all you do. Yeah.
Thank you. And
All
thank
right.
you,
Well,
everybody.
yeah. Thanks, everyone. Thanks for coming. And we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.